Passage 2, question number 7, 8, 9 belong to this passage. Now basically this passage talks about a report, the final report of the Bibek Debroy Committee on restructuring the Indian Railways. So, and then the author goes on to analyze how some of the suggestions which are made in this report are pivotal to making sure that the Indian Railways goes in the right direction. For example, the second paragraph starts with the line, one of the most transformative suggestions. Is a very strong word. So from this passage we can analyze that the author is in favor of this report. He doesn't exactly oppose these reports or some of the suggestions made in the report, but he does mention certain roadblocks that we can expect in the implementation of the suggestions that have been given by this committee. For example, the railway employee unions are already up in arms over the references to the private sector. And the last paragraph says, however, all these suggestions merit immediate consideration. So it directly supports whatever is mentioned in the passage, or sorry, in the committee report, and these have to be considered. He doesn't say they have to be implemented, but they have to be considered. Now let's look at question number 7. According to the passage, which of the statements given above is or are correct? So it's a direct question. Railway unions are not concerned about the health of the railways. Now this option is incorrect. The author does mention that the railway unions are, they don't like the word private sector, they don't like to transition to private sectors, but from that can we conclude, or do we have enough data to say that railway unions are not concerned about the health of the railways? They might be up in arms against this proposed transition from public sector to private sector for other reasons. Maybe they are insecure about their jobs, or maybe they feel that they will be exploited or they will lose out on their livelihood. So there can be many reasons, and there may be personal reasons too, but do we have enough data to come to this conclusion? And secondly, this is a direct question. It doesn't ask us to come to a judgment regarding whether they are concerned about the health of the railways or not. So option 1 is incorrect. We don't have that line in the passage, or don't have enough data. Statement 2, the proposed independent regulator will be a step towards greater decentralization of power. Now this one is mentioned in this paragraph. It says that, let's go to that line, this would be a difficult equation to manage. The suggestion to set up an independent regulator will equally pose a challenge. This will essentially mean setting up a body outside of the powerful and centralized railway board, which might resist such a move. So it does talk about decentralization, which does talk about greater decentralization of powers, and the author supports that. Hence only B, or only statement 2 is correct. So the answer option is B. Question number 8, what is the central idea of the passage? First option can be eliminated because it doesn't say that it's likely to face resistance of the railway board and railway unions. It's in fact, they might face that, but that is not the central focus of the passage. It's just a fact, or it's just a possible roadblock in the implementation of the suggestions given by the Debroy committee. Hence this cannot be the central idea of the passage. Winning the trust of railway unions is key to implementation. Now this one encompasses the entire second and third paragraph that would determine the success of this potentially transformational report, which talks about in the first paragraph as well as the second to last paragraph. So B looks like the right option as of now. The closed nature of Indian Railways is responsible for underinvestment in capacities and questionable viability. Now this one goes beyond the passage. The passage doesn't give us enough data to come to this conclusion, and secondly, it is not the focus of the author. The focus of the author is this project or this report of this particular committee, which has the potential to transform our railways or the ailing Indian railways. Hence option B is the answer to question number 8. Now question number 9, it's an assumption question, and we have to find out which of the assumptions given above is or are invalid. Now in an assumption question, we have to see that the assumption should have a direct relationship with the conclusion. That is, if the assumption becomes false, then the conclusion should be weakened. Now option A says, different reports in the past have failed because unlike the Debroy committee report, they could not identify definitive measures to effect a transformation with a set timeline. Now this one is invalid according to this passage. Reason is it doesn't have any relationship with the final conclusion that the author makes. He says that the Debroy committee has given some great suggestions. They have to be followed. They can be transformational for the future of the Indian Railways, but he has never compared the Debroy committee report with the reports in the past. He does mention certain past incidents, but he doesn't talk about, he doesn't have a direct, or he doesn't make a direct comparison. Hence, this one is invalid. Second one, transparent accounting processes must have ensured successful public-private partnership route in both the road and railway sectors. Even if this becomes false, our conclusion is not affected. That is, if this assumption becomes false, the conclusion that the Broglie committee report is a good measure and the government should think about finding ways to implement it, that is not affected. So when an assumption doesn't directly affect the conclusion, it becomes an invalid assumption. Hence, option 1 and 2 both are invalid, and our answer is C.